Do we know? Are we live? Did she check? Are we streaming? Am I good to go ahead and start or? Okay, one second. I know that they're streaming this on YouTube. I want to make sure everyone sees everything. We're good to go. Okay, thank you, everyone. My name is Marcy Woodward. I am a commissioner for District 4, Palm Beach County District 4. Thank you all for being here tonight. We tried to make sure we picked a date where most people who would want to come had a chance to be here. I know not everyone that lives here is here year round, so I think we chose good with February 1st. There's a lot to be said tonight. I brought the A team with me. I have a lot of county people here with me to discuss what's happening. I've received a number of emails. I've had a bunch of meetings with a lot of people, even on Sunday of this week. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and let county staff start the presentation. There have been cards passed around if anybody would like to make a public statement. Do we know who has the cards or if everyone has had a chance to get those? We'll be taking comments and questions after the presentation. So I thank you all for being here, and we're going to start with Eric.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone. Come on. I know you're not shy. We're here to have a dialogue, so it's going to be real awkward in here if nobody's talking in a few minutes. But my name is Eric McClellan. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Strategic Planning for the county's Facilities Development and Operations Department. That is always a mouthful. The title basically means I'm a jack of many things, but a master of absolutely nothing for the department. It's good to see so many people here tonight. Speaking for my colleagues in facilities, we actually build county libraries, design, permit, and construct them. So it's great to see so many people excited to be in a public library this evening. We really thank you for being with us. We think it's important that you're with us. So let me tell you just a little bit about myself, since I'm going to be leading our presentation. I am an urban planner by education, training, and experience. So for any of you who have never met one before, you can now say you have. As an urban planner, I am not an engineer. I'm not an architect. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not a lobbyist. I'm just county staff who works on public buildings of all sorts for the department, including parks. To give you a little bit more just about my background quickly, I began my career with the county in the zoning division. I was a project manager for applications that had to proceed through public hearings, much like Milani Park has. I did that for several years. Decided, you know what, I need to see the other side of this application process. I need to understand the industry and things that go into these applications coming before a government. So I did that for a short period of time, very short, in fact. I realized quickly that's not my passion. That's not what I want to do with my life. That public service and public facilities was really where I saw my career taking me. So fortunately, I found a position with the Facilities Development and Operations Department, and that was now over 17 years ago. So I'd like to think I made the right decision and I've done something correct to still be in the position and with the department, but that's plenty about me. I want to take a few minutes and introduce the rest of our project team. If I could have the next slide. Gotta love technology. Well, I'm sure they'd probably rather see the presentation in the back of my ugly head anyway. There we go. So let me start on the left side of the screen, the others that are with me from Facilities Development and Operations. First, we have Ismi Ayala Colazo, who is the department director and also an assistant county administrator. So she'll be spearheading the team working on the project. We have Andy Gamble, who will be our capital project manager in our capital improvements division. Andy has over 25 years of service with the county and over 24 with the department. We also have Fernando Deldago, who's the director of the capital improvements division. And before joining us a little over 5 years ago now, I believe, he was in private practice as an architect. And I mentioned myself, and it's my personal direct phone number at the bottom if anybody is interested, and we'll have additional information at the end of the presentation. Moving over to Parks and Recreation, we have Tammy Fields, who is Assistant County Administrator as well, overseeing the Parks Department. We have Jennifer Cirillo, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation, long tenured with the department, worked for many years under a former legacy director for the department. And we also have Bob Hamilton, who is the Director of Planning, Research, and Development with Parks and Recreation. Yeah, if you don't want to talk to me, call Bob. But Bob has also been with the Parks Department for
15 years.
15 years. So the theme, hopefully you'll take away from that introduction, as the commissioner very generously said, is we're kind of bringing you our A-team. We're not new at this. It's what we do every single day. We've worked on many, many, many parks as a team, countywide, in municipalities and unincorporated areas. So this is what we do. If we could go to the next slide. As county staff, we know parks by several different classifications. We have regional parks, we have district parks, we have community parks, we have neighborhood parks, and we have beach parks. And beach parks is what we're here talking about tonight with Milani Park. So to understand what a beach park is, it's important to know what a beach park is not. And so I first wanted to start with that. A beach park is not an active park. It's not a location where you're going to have organized sporting events or other large group activities. There's no athletic fields, there's no sport courts, there's no sports lighting, and there's no concessions. It's also not a commercial venue or location that has stages, amphitheaters, bench seating, so nothing that's going to attract a large audience. It's also not a place to camp or spend the night. And I know there's some concerns we've heard about homeless folks that might want to occupy the park. That's not allowed. In fact, if you watch the news closely, you might have heard this week. We're going to give everybody a chance to speak at the end. If you watch the news, you might have heard that the county opened its third homeless resource center Monday of this week. So we do not condone use of our parks for homeless purposes. We have dedicated facilities for that. It's a strategic planning objective of the county commission, has been for many years, to address homeless head on. It's not a high volume traffic generator. I looked back at the traffic study that's already approved with the town that supports the approved site plan, and it demonstrates 86 traffic trips per day coming to this facility. That is based upon national traffic data and information. So 86 trips is equivalent to 8 to 9 residential dwelling units. Each one generates about 10 trips per day. Usually what people are most concerned with is peak hour traffic. And in this case, there are 4 trips in the morning peak hour, 9 in the PM peak hour. So we are talking about one of the lowest traffic generating uses of any county facility, period. And it's not an after hours point of congregation. And I'll touch upon that a little bit in some of the other slides. If we could go to the next. This is a side-by-side comparison of the Milani Park property and the Ocean Ridge Hammock Park property in Ocean Ridge. Some of you have probably been to Ocean Ridge. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's a beautiful park. And the vision for Milani Park is no different. Looking at them side by side, you can see Ocean Ridge is a much larger piece of property than is Milani, but the development concept, the improvement concept is exactly the same. We're not looking to nuke the property, destroy all the vegetation, the dunes, the wildlife. In fact, we're trying to preserve that and introduce the public to those important resources and assets of the county. That's why so many people come here. That's why so many of us live here. We don't want to take that away. So if we could go to the next slide, I'm going to let my colleagues from Parks and Recreation in a few minutes give some more detail on the Ocean Ridge Park. But for now, I just wanted to provide that as a point of reference for everybody. If we could advance to the next slide. There we go. So what is it that county staff is proposing, since I've gone through some of those things that we are not proposing? First, this is a passive park. It is a passive use. Some of the activities that are typical in these types of parks might be swimming in the ocean, walking on the beach, observing the ocean, observing wildlife, observing vegetation, or simply relaxing on the sandy shore. We're proposing no occupiable structures. So I said before, no concessions building, no public restroom building, no lifeguard office or station, no maintenance building, no occupiable structures, period, is what our vision is. Again, no lifeguard tower, because there will be no lifeguard on duty. Swimming is really fairly minimal at these types of beaches. It doesn't have the volume and the risk that we do at larger parks that would command ocean rescue. Sunrise to sunset operation. Sun comes up, it's open for use. Sun goes down, that's it, no more. So the only lighting we would even need would be security level low lighting in the parking area. As a crime deterrent, if you've ever heard of crime prevention through environmental design, you want to have some level of lighting. When people are committing crimes, they don't want to be seen. So if you provide the illumination, you keep eyes on the scene, eyes on the site, that's what deters crime. Parking would be based on a fee, consistent with the conditions of approval that apply to the current approval for Milani Park. And we're looking to reduce the number of overall parking spaces. And I'll show you that visually here in just a minute. And ongoing monitoring by county park rangers. The county's Park and Recreation Department does have its own force of park rangers, and no different than any other park countywide. They will be circulating, they'll be providing nighttime security, nighttime watch, no different than anywhere else. So if we could go to the next slide. Some of the other features or amenities that we would envision for a park of this nature, educational signage, identifying some of the vegetation, saying what it is. So many people in our community, they might not have lived here very long. They might not be familiar with our environment. We want them to know and recognize and be able to identify what some of those natural resources are. So signage is typically how we do that. We provide it along a boardwalk or a pathway, and that's what is meant by an interpretive nature path. There'll be all sorts of, I'm sure you've seen it if you go to other natural areas or natural parks. There's signage that identifies the wildlife that's present, the types of birds, the types of lizards, the types of fish. That is the vision. The next point I think is incredibly important. Preservation of archaeological resources and natural resources. We're not trying to remove those from the property. We're not trying to bulldoze them over. We're not trying to remove them from the property. We are trying to design with nature, design with those assets. That is why the county made the decision years ago to purchase this property. It has unique assets. It's something people, our public, the people we represent, want and appreciate, and that attracts them here. So we want to incorporate that into this park. Will also allow us, again, to highlight all of those resources with signage and make them outwardly visible. And it's going to provide us an opportunity to maintain, preserve, and even enhance native habitat, all the sea turtles, all the birds, dune plantings. We will not only keep the plantings that are on the dune, we'll enhance and reinforce the plantings on those dunes. We want it to be as natural as possible. That is what this property is about. If we could go to the next slide. So as you can see, I'll read it verbatim. Simply stated, county staff proposes a simplified site plan, reducing the scope of improvements on both sides of South Ocean Boulevard, or A1A. After we've had these types of discourse, we've presented you our ideas, we've heard you, we've developed more fact-based findings. We'll go back, refine plans, and then we'll start developing an actual proposed site design and present that to you. And not until then will we be in a position where we'll have to go all the way back through your town's public hearing processes under your town code. We are not exempt. Back to the planning board, to the town commission, and that is where a final decision will be rendered. Next slide, please. So this is an illustrative version of the site plan that is already approved for the property. The red X's are indicating where we are proposing to scale this project back. And let me walk you through it. One important thing you'll see on this drawing, and the static drawing I have over here is the exact same thing. I should have mentioned the other boards over here give you some history. I'm not going to bore you by going through 2 pages of history. If you're interested, if you want to see it, you're more than welcome to view it. We'll put it on our website for you to have. There is no hidden information here. Back to this drawing, there is a phase one, which is the initial or immediate development intention of the county. And there was a phase two, which was a more long-range future plan of development. We're proposing to scale back everything that's phase two, and not just scale it back, but completely eliminate it. Take it off the plan, take it off the drawing, bring it back through the process. We'll have no rights to do that. Unless it's sometime in the future, we were to come back through this whole process all over again, which is not our intent as we stand here today. So if you look on the west side, let me walk away. Ocean Boulevard, A1A, west, east, to make sure we all have the same orientation. On the west side, that's where the parking facilities for the park would be. Phase one was a parking lot of a little over 40 parking spaces. The phase two was indicated to have a little under 60. We're proposing to do away with that phase two 60 spaces altogether. We'll keep it at the phase one. That gives us all the rest of that property to design it in a way that meets a public vision. It's additional landscaping, buffering. That's why we're having these kind of meetings. What is your vision? How can we develop a plan that reaches a consensus? That's what we're hoping to accomplish. When we go over to the east side, the two X's are the proposed vertical structures or habitable structures on the approved site plan. The one at the top is the lifeguard office building and the public restrooms. Gone. We'll live without it. We're happy to take that away. The other one was the lifeguard stand on the beach. Again, we'll take it away. We're happy to do that. So these are, I say, illustrative because we haven't gone back to the drawing board to start redrawing plans. This is our first stop. We want to hear from you. We want to see if there's a way we can provide a public park and provide beach access to our constituents, the public we are accountable to, in a manner that will suit everybody's wishes, wants, and desires. Can't promise you we're going to get there. That's just life. But we are willing to work with you, and we hope we have your collaboration trying to get there. What I want to do now is turn it over to my colleagues from Parks and Recreation to do a little bit of show and tell. I brought up the Ocean Ridge Park before, but I think they're going to get into a little more detail about that. So, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. I do want to, before I walk you through what a passive beach park looks like for us, I do want to address two things Eric brought up. So I kind of heard the rumble when homelessness was brought up, right? So in our county, we have 39 municipalities. About 20 of them have their own Parks and Rec departments. Some are very small and just one or two people that do special events. Some are rather large, like the city of West Palm Beach, town of Jupiter, city of Boca Raton. So each of those park and recreation agencies have different rules. In our county parks, we have an ordinance that was enacted, and you may have heard about a homeless encampment in John Prince Park. That was completely removed from the park and went into our housing resource centers. We enacted an ordinance that if you cannot stay in a park, you are offered shelter, and if you refuse shelter, you cannot stay in one of our county parks. Also, our dunes are heavily protected. There's a state ordinance protects dunes. So if anyone tries to get up in there and camp or throw a hammock, anything like that in our county, we do actually enforce those things. So I cannot speak, and I know all the other parks and rec directors in our county, but I cannot speak to their rules and how they're applied, but I can speak to how our county rules are and how they're applied. And I want to address that. And I think the second thing I've been hearing a lot about is concern over our turtles and turtle nesting. One of our parks in the county, so I have 110 properties and facilities in the county, from Boca to Tequesta, all the way out to the Glades. Loggerhead Marine Life Center is in one of our county parks. We have the highest nesting density on our beaches, and we work really closely with our friends that are out very early in the morning monitoring turtles. That is not new to our department. And also the reef system. I know this is a very unique property with the rock system. Phil Foster Park, if any of you are familiar, the Blue Heron Bridge dive site, if you're divers or snorkelers, that is one of our park properties, and it is renowned as one of the most accessible and beautiful dive sites in the entire country. And some people visit internationally to visit us. So I just want to kind of put that out there that our park system is very diverse. As Eric said, we have different types of parks. And so I do want to walk you through one of the parks that is similar to this phased down approach that we are proposing. Eric said, I've been with the department a long time. It's been 20 years. I have to say, when this project was first sold to the county for a park purpose in 1987, I was in high school. I'm now over 50. So I'm the third parks director to work on this. And I think we come here to listen to you, but also I think with an approach that is much more appropriate for this very special site. So the park that Eric referenced, that it is somewhat similar to what we envision this will look like. And I'll point out the differences as we walk through. I took these pictures personally a few weeks ago. It's Ocean Ridge Hammock Park. It's a little, I think about 8 miles north of here in the town of Ocean Ridge. And so when you visit the park, we have, we do have Parks and Recreation signage, and you may have seen one of our conditions with the town currently was to put up a sign, future site at Camden Milani Park. And that's a condition we satisfied at the current site here in Highland Beach. So we do have accessible parking at the park. And again, if you flip through, if you could advance, Eric. In the parking lot, we do have vegetation. I know we'll probably talk a little bit about buffering our parking lots from our neighbors tonight. So that's something we're flexible and can work with you on. In this case, those CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design principles, the town of Ocean Ridge wanted a low hedge rather than a high hedge. So they had really good visibility of who's in the park. So that's one of these designs, that this is the very front of the park facing A1A. You would park, and then there's an access point that has a crosswalk to safely cross over into the east portion of the park. Okay, you can advance. So this is the actual entrance, and I'm on the right here. I'm facing the entrance of the park. Again, we would envision keeping much of the native vegetation. We would clean out exotic vegetation, anything that is inhibiting the natural state of the property. And we have to be very sensitive because, as Eric said, this is very archaeologically sensitive property. So even the vegetation management we do will be with that in mind. And then on the left, that was actually on my right as I'm entering the park. That's signage that we received a grant to help us with that and the management of the park as well. So minimal signage. Again, park open sunrise to sunset. We would have gates that are locked at night so that folks could not enter the parking lot after sunset. And then our park ordinance, which if you want to look it up, is County Code Chapter 21. That's also known as our park rules, our park ordinance. We have some signage there posted with some of the basic rules. And we can certainly put no camping or anything that the town would like us that's in our ordinance, we can draw attention to. Thank you. So as you walk up the path, we partner. I know trash is also maybe a concern of some folks. We do have maintenance personnel that will visit daily, but we also partner. A gentleman named Andy Abbott started a nonprofit called the Beach Bucket Foundation. And he kind of started at one park and piloted it with us, and it took off. It's now all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and they just actually, at public spaces, they just actually this week had their first condo sign on with them. So this is trash that's washing up from the ocean. We all see it, microplastic, styrofoam, all of that. Someone visiting our parks. Now, every coastal park we have, I have 14 beach parks, 13 of them are in municipalities. I only have one that's unincorporated. All of our beach parks, you can grab a bucket, help us out while you're out there. I'm sure some of you probably already do that already, and we don't even know the difference that you're making on the coastline. So these pathways on your far left, this is actually through the tree canopy. What we're proposing at Milani Park, it would actually be, and this is partly because of the archaeology, it would be an elevated ADA accessible boardwalk. If you've ever been to Gulfstream Park, and some of our others, there's an elevated boardwalk. So at Ocean Ridge Hammock, you can see it's more of a bordered hard packed shell rock pathway. So that's a little bit different, but it would be the same. You see in the middle picture, you hook up to the boardwalk for the last little leg there. That's actually what we are proposing, so that we have minimal ground disturbance. And if we had to, we would cap where the actual pile is going, and then not disturb the archaeology. And then the picture on the far right is me actually turning back around, facing west now. This is back into the park vegetation. I know, again, the Milani Park property is a little different. It has a little knee wall there. We would look to work with our Environmental Resources Department to do some, you can see the sea oats. that are kind of the foredune of the property. And if you read the environmental report that they did on this property, there is some opportunity to do some native planting to increase, butterflies. I have a picture of a butterfly that I took while I was there, and some other bird life, wildlife, and that sort of thing in the park. There is an opportunity to do some additional native planting, kind of to fortify the dune as well and protect the park and the archaeology. There's the butterfly. And this is more of the pathway leading through. You can kind of see the tree canopy. Again, no one is allowed to camp in there. I have park rangers that check. My maintenance team will check daily. And we certainly will work closely with your law enforcement on any concerns they see. We'll be on top of. And this is the actual beach side of the park when I visited. So there were people out there reading books, sitting in the sun. It was quite cold when I went a couple weeks ago. It was a little bit chilly, but I would say, to go in the water, maybe a little bit chilly, but it was probably about 72, but very sunny, and people were enjoying the time there. Again, I know you've seen lots of parks probably all over the world, and every one of them is different, but we do keep on top of our trash, we keep on top of our security, and we do protect our wildlife on our beaches. I'm going to turn it back over to Eric now.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're almost done. You guys have been very patient with us and we appreciate it. So where are we currently at and where are we going? In July of last year, the county sent a letter to the town informing them that we were going to be proceeding with the formal design effort for the project. We had exercised a deferral that the county and the town had agreed to, and that had come to a close. There's an additional option, but this is a facility that we need to deliver per our comp plan and the policies that the county has for its countywide constituents. So that's currently where we're at. As part of that, the first step, as you see, would be to complete more advanced archaeological research than we had done in the past. And that's to further inform the design and to satisfy conditions of approval that apply to the current approval in the town for the Milani Park property. The next step would then be to advance the design effort. And what we're doing is, before we get too far down the road, we're coming back and saying, look, we can proceed. We'd rather not. We'd rather scale it back. Can we have that dialogue? Can we talk about it? Is there room for compromise where we're currently at? So if we go to the next slide, as you've heard me say, providing a beach park is a requirement under the county's comprehensive plan to meet our level of service countywide. I don't think there's anybody in this room that would dispute or doubt that population countywide has grown. And our beach access really has not. So we're losing that proportionality. We're losing that balance. And we have a county policy that talks about the number of acres of beach park per 1,000 population. And we're approaching that. And we need to stay ahead of that. We can't wait until we're behind it to start working on these projects. If any of you are in the development industry or have worked on any kind of capital project before, these things take years. We don't just plant seeds and they sprout out of the ground. It literally will probably take a solid 3 years from this point before we could even get through design, permitting, and construction of a finished product. So we're not talking about something that just shows up overnight. So with that, once we have heard input, gone back through our process with our design professionals, because county staff, we do not draw all these drawings. I told you earlier, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect. We guide and direct and steer what they draw and design and deliver. So we'll have to contract for that. We don't want to start having contractual services performed if it's not actually where we're going to end up. So if we could go to the next slide. As I said, architectural and engineering services is something that would need to be retained to develop a new conceptual site plan. That's why I'm still using the old illustrative version and putting these cheap red X's on it, because I can do it in-house. The conceptual plan is going to incorporate community input, things that we hear, things that are consistent with county beach park accommodations and amenities. It's going to be informed by the additional archaeological research that's going to be done. So we'll come back, and that's important. We will come back with a plan that incorporates comments that incorporates what our design professionals are telling us, that incorporates the programming for the beach park. We're not intending this to be the last meeting tonight. This is kind of the start of a new beginning. So we will come back once we have that plan, something better than this, to show you what the new concept is. And only then will we be in a position where we can file an application to the town that meets all of their application requirements to restart the process. So that is something as well that's going to be many months in the making. It's not going to happen overnight. So next slide. This is where if you want to take a picture, if you're afraid you're not going to remember where to find information, we have what we call an open projects webpage. We're going to start to build that after tonight. The presentation we're giving you tonight is going to be on there. Other information we hear that we have, we'll put it on there. Again, we have nothing to hide. We're going to put it all out there on that website. You've got my personal information, my direct phone number, my email address. Please, if you feel like you weren't able to say something tonight, if you missed something, if you think we didn't understand something, we work for you. We are public servants. We want to hear from you. That's why we're here. If we didn't care, we wouldn't be here. We would just move forward with the plan that's already approved. We're hoping that's not where we're at. And if you don't want to talk to me, because I know you've already heard more from me than you'd probably like to, again, Bob Hamilton with Parks. It's got his email address and his direct phone number on the slide. And we can come back and show you this later if anybody would like. So with that, I'm going to close. It looks like the commissioner would like to say one more thing before we turn the floor over to you guys.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you everyone who's here. My first one of these by myself running solo. I'd just like to point out a couple of issues. This came to me almost immediately after I got elected a little over a year ago. I inherited this project, like I'm sure everyone up here and almost everyone in this room maybe was not a part of the 1986 vote that brought this to us. It's been kicked down the road a number of times. The options that were given to me last year were we have one final 5-year extension to delay this project, or we can start doing what we're doing right now. And the board that I sit on right now is, we get along very well and we work with each other. And I have the ability to talk to them and to bring to them options that you want. I don't know who's going to be sitting on that board in 5 years. I might not even be me. I don't know who the rest of them will be. And the fact is, this is an election year. Several of our, four of our people, one we're losing and 3 are up for re-election. So even by the end of this year, I don't know who sits on that board. But what I can tell you now is there's an appetite to listen to the people. We've done it a number of times. We've faced a number of very difficult decisions this board has had to make. I'm confident that we are here to listen to you. We want to be partners with you. I have 13 municipalities in my district, and I work very hard to work with my cities because the county, we're respectful of all of our cities. And in this instance, we want to be good partners. And that's why after having met with most of the people that have presented here, I was encouraged that we can deliver something that will be an asset to this community. And that's what I want to deliver. And I hope that when you come up with your comments and your questions, that you realize that we have an opportunity to do something together. This is happening. It is. This was bought with bond dollars by the people of Palm Beach County. They own it, and it was meant to be a park. I can't go against the will of the people, but I can work with the people in this room to deliver you something that you want. So we're going to allow 2 minutes of comment. If you have a question, we have a number of experts here, people who will be involved in this. If you want to ask a question, please feel free to do so. I think we have a little over 20 cards. So we're going to allow 2 minutes apiece for you to speak. And if you'd like to if you have a question, we'll make sure that it gets answered if it can in this room tonight. And if not, you will be followed up with. So we're going to start by calling out questions. The microphone is in the middle of the room. We'll call out about 4 or 5 names to start with, just so you can start lining up. Can you close it?
Close presentation.
Oh, yes, you can close the presentation so the screen will be visible for those in the other locations.
Good evening, and I'm Tammy Fields, along with Ismay here. We're both from county administration. So on behalf of our county administrator, Virginia Baker, and all of county administration, I want to say thank you for being here and participating in this process. We have a lot of cards, but many of the cards say that you do not wish to speak. So we will be taking all of this information back with us. And it will be part of the record of the information from tonight's meeting. But what I'll do now is call the individuals that we've got cards for. We won't be adding any additional speakers beyond these cards, but if you have written your well, this is, and we'll be happy to receive the handout and take it back. And you'll have 2 minutes in order to be able to do that.
Very biased in terms of how the shots were made. For example, the pictures of Milani.
Sir?
Versus Hammond Park.
So-
I have other pictures of their photos of both. I would love to present.
And we'll be happy to take all of that information back. We have 2 minutes each for each person. And so let me get you, we're going to get to each of the cards. All right. So, okay.
But those are the end of the cards. I didn't get it. I don't have it.
The cards were all made available. Here we go. That we take more cards, but not to take up. We can take the comments. All right, so what we're going to do is for those of you who did want to submit a card and you didn't see the cards when you came in, you can fill out a card and indicate what information you wanted to present. We went until 6:30 collecting cards of speakers, and so that's the ones that we're going to go through. But we will take all of the other information back, and if you have photos that you want to share, we can also give you. Many of us have our cards here. We'll give them to you, and you can share it with us. Or you can present copies, and that'll also be included within the records. Okay.
What's your goal?
Your goal and time? Your goal and time?
We don't have a goal end time, just so everyone knows, as evidenced by no one from Highland Beach being up here. I'm not even sure where city manager or town manager is. This is a county meeting, and we routinely do 2 minutes apiece for people to speak. We want to be respectful of everyone who wants to have time to speak. 2 minutes is usually reasonable for you to make the point that you need to, or to ask the question. And seeing as how I'm sure there are a number of people who want to ask a question, we would like to have time to have those answered while we have people here in the room who can answer that. So that's the reason for the 2 minutes. If you'd like to schedule a meeting with me privately, you're always welcome to do that. You can reach me at my office. I've had a meeting with a number of people in this room who reached out to me. I don't say no. I try to schedule it, but I will meet with you. That's an option. Tonight is 2 minutes apiece, please. Sir, you can meet with me. You can meet with me individually. I am asking for 2 minutes apiece, or we can call this. I would like to hear from everyone in this room who wants to speak. I'm asking for 2 minutes. Please be respectful of everyone who's here tonight.
Okay, so I've got all of the cards, and I'm just going to call people one by one. And will one of you be our timer? You got the timer? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the first person is Arlene Owens. There's a microphone here in the middle. Is Arlene Owens here? All right. We're just going to put that in the back, and then when she's able to make her way over, we'll call her back up. Because the individual asked to speak, so I want to give them the opportunity to speak. Michael Dolfman. Okay. The next person is Robert Keoghan, and I apologize if I don't have the names pronounced correctly. All right. Judy Adwar. Come forward. And just so it'll be prepared, Joanne Ryan will be the next person afterwards.
My name's Michael Dolfman. I was in the overflow room.
Okay.
First of all, let me thank you and your staff for coming here this evening to hear us and present the plan. It is appreciated. One of the aspects I want to discuss is we have a coral reef in the vicinity of the proposed park. Coral reefs are federally protected, and we saw no plan for dealing with that. Secondly, at high tide, that coral reef is covered. People are going to get injured going into the beach, going into the water. Highland Beach Fire Department is going to have to deal with those injuries. Those costs are going to be our costs, not the county costs. So this is going to impose a financial burden for our community. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. I just want to quickly address the reef concern. It is very valid. We have other reefs, coral reefs in our park properties. I mentioned Phil Foster Park, which is one of those properties. We also have other rock formations. Again, this is very unique. But we do have other rock formations that do cover, and we do have signage that we post appropriately. But I do understand and I hear your concern. And we also work with the Reef Institute. I don't know if you've heard of them. They actually do research to regenerate coral, and they have planted coral at Peanut Island Park as part of their research to bring back and help sustain our reefs. So it's a very valid point, and we do take it seriously. Thank you.
Ma'am, before you go ahead and take the floor, I'm going to pass additional cards left and right. If you need to make additional comments, please go ahead and fill them out. And if you can have them make the way back to us, we will appreciate it.
The picture of Ocean Reef, if you took the pictures of the beach, that beach is 3 times as long as our beach in front of us when you're talking about Milani Park. Our beach is very, very narrow. The reason that I wanted to speak, have you put into consideration the dog park that Boca Raton has made on Spanish River? Because we now cannot come out of our community. I live in Highland Beach. Sometimes it could take you 10 minutes, and very, very dangerous pulling your cars out of our complex. The traffic has increased, not just with so many more people, but since they started that dog park, none of that has been addressed. That's very, very close to us. And I think that's something that's very valid.
Thank you. Were you Miss Adwar? I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, so Joanne Ryan is next, and I did want to point out that, okay. Arlene, okay. And I did want to comment that the park that you are referencing in Boca, the dog park, is a City of Boca Raton park. It is not a county park.
for a small community. And everything is affecting us from both sides.
Ms. Owens.
All right, I'm a lifelong member, a resident of Boca Raton. Family came in 29. I can tell you a little bit of the history of those, they were called Jap rocks. They changed it politically to Yamato rocks. And grew up there, snorkeling, tidal pools, wonderful things. If this park had been approved 30 years ago, I might have still gone snorkeling. I'm hoping to make it up the ramp and at least see it again. And I know my grandchildren and kids would love the area as much as I did as a child. That was part of Boca Raton when Boca Raton was incorporated in 1925. Highland Beach, I believe, in the 60s. Anyhow, when they divided it up, they used the road as the dividing line. Okay, so whoop, there went our rocks. I feel very strongly that by reducing it to a passive park, first of all, I won't be staying long because I need a restroom. But I would like to see it again. Now, my kids would like to see it. And I can see people using it exactly like when we used it, when there were the tidal pools, the low tide, and the snorkeling. And I see no problem with it because it belongs to everyone in this county. It does not belong just to Highland Beach. It belongs to everybody in this county. We all paid for it and we need it. I know when my kids were here from Ohio, when somebody came to visit from Ohio, listen, you guys need a little history. When my kids came from Ohio, wanted to see the sun come up. We can't do that in Boca because they still got it locked. But they went up to that Ocean Ridge Park and got up there just as the sun was coming up. And they went that far just to see the sun come up.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Are you Robert? Okay.
Hello. This proposed development site lies in the heart of an environmentally sensitive area, serving as a crucial barrier against coastal erosion and key component of our local ecosystems biodiversity. Mangroves, in particular, are renowned for the ability to sequester carbon, protect against flooding, and support a myriad excuse me, that's the wife calling me, say where I am. Listen, a myriad of marine and terrestrial species. The introduction of a parking lot risks severe disruption to these fragile ecosystems, potentially leading to habitat destruction, increased pollution, and disturbing of the nesting turtles, among other adverse effects. In light of the concerns. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That we have a unique opportunity here. That property, you have the beachfront property and the property sits on the highway, the big vacant lot. That vacant lot, you should let it become either a passive little exercise park or let it go back into its natural state. Let the foliage, let the mangroves over there take over to that site there. Let it go back in. Instead of putting a car park, put a park in, okay? Because we're talking about a parking lot. It's a cut grass, you got chemicals, pesticides going in there. I'd like to see the county take advantage of this and turn it back into a natural forest. There are organizations that will buy the property. There's one, the Land for the Public Trust. They own millions of acres throughout the United States. They're a group that would buy the property and let it return back to its natural habitat. So if the county wants to get their investment back, they can get their investment back and it'll be a park and everybody will win-win situation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next person is Joanne Ryan, and then following that will be Daniel DiFilippo.
Hi. Okay. I do not live in Highland Beach. I live halfway between Ocean Hammock Park and Highland Beach, but I do run the turtle nesting program here. And I feel very privileged to have run this program for the past 15 years in Highland Beach because it's private and it's dark and there's not a lot of foot traffic, day or night. So this particular area that this proposed park is in is a very high density turtle nesting area. Just in that little Palm Beach growth area alone, we get at least 40 crawls, 40, 50 crawls every summer. So with that being said, my concern, and I was asked to come here tonight, is just for the nesting turtles. I'm glad I followed this guy because I'm all about the natural beach and the wildlife and keeping it as natural as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. After Mr. DiFilippo will be Susie Hiles.
Well, this project is impractical and it's not needed. We are developing every bit of what is a natural setting, and we cannot afford to keep on doing that. The course, the NIMBY, possibly from the Boca people. Has anybody done a real needs assessment that we need a park? We have a needs assessment. We have, how many parks do we have in the county? And what's the acreage?
You're asking a lot of questions. Do you want me to take it for 2
Rhetorically,
minutes?
Maybe you don't have to, but I don't.
Okay, we do, and you can reach out to Bob or I, and we can give you that information. Yes.
I mean, this is a small piece
And the beach
of the big
access,
pie, a tiny
yeah.
little piece of the big pie. So do we really need to encroach upon the natural beauty that we have? I have walked on the beach, and the Yamata Rock can become also very dangerous and very sharp. There could be some very serious accidents. Who's going to respond to those needs? It's rhetorical. Have you walked there after a rainstorm of some kind? Have you walked? Anybody walked by there? And as you walk by there, what do you find? Flooding. And yet the soil can absorb some of the water. But days afterwards, there is still water there. When you pave it, it's going to magnify that problem. It's going to become a mosquito haven, possibly, or the no-see-ums.
Okay, your time. Thank you.
Huh?
Yep. Susie Hiles, followed by Barbara Nesto or Nesty.
Hello.
You suffer for the same affliction as me.
My name is Susie Hiles, and I am a resident of Highland Beach for full-time for approximately 23 years. And I've been involved with the sea turtle program in Highland Beach for over 20 years. Actually, I think I've been involved the longest, except for a couple other people in the program. And that area right there, I've walked it almost every morning for the last 20 years during turtle season. And I do know the beach very well there. And a lot of stuff that was said previously before me is very true. There's a high density of sea turtle nesting there. And we've actually had the largest sea turtle in the world nest there, the leatherback. And I do see that where there's a lot of traffic on the beach, like the beach in Delray, the sea turtles just don't seem to want to go there. They actually stay away from there. So the nesting that we have there is just, I don't know, then maybe they'll find somewhere else to go, but I don't think it'll be the same. And the reef, I've seen the reef covered many times that you can't even see Yamato rock there. Because I've seen it for the last 20 years or 23. And also I know that there is a burial ground there. There's a mound that is between A1A and the beach, which the beach is very small there. There's a burial ground, and I know they talked about a walk that would be elevated, but you're still going into the land that was a burial ground. So I'm not sure, how they handle that. And also the lighting. I heard them say earlier something about there would have to be lighting. And I know the lighting just has to be out at sunset, but we do have special ordinance for the lighting during seashore season. Thank you very much.
All right, Barbara.
I can address it, certainly. I addressed the turtles already. We work really closely with our monitors. We do have many beaches that have extremely high density. The turtle lighting, absolutely. We're very familiar with the ordinance. I have a colleague of mine from Environmental Resources Management here tonight with us. And the archaeologically sensitive, there is human remains on that site. That's one reason why we are not recommending this intense development of the property. We want to be very respectful of that. I don't know if you know, I manage 2 second Seminole War battlefields in our park system. That is not new to us, but this is a special place. We also, one of our parks is Murakami Museum and Japanese Garden. So Yamato Rock, we have pictures of the Yamato colony at this rock. This is a very special place, and we want to be very intentional and why we're considering this feedback and sensitive to what this resource is. There was a reason that this park was identified for acquisition in 1987 using bond money, park bond money. And all of the reasons you laid out, oh, doggy from the dog park, someone mentioned, right? All of the reasons you laid out, you were right on target with all of those considerations. Did I answer all the points you brought up? I don't know where you sat down. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Barbara Nestle, and then after that will be Fred DeFalco.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Barbara Nestle. I'm very concerned about the environment. So I'm a lawyer by background and doing a lot of charity work, also for the Turtle team. So I'm very passionate about the environment. My name is Barbara Nestle. I'm helping also legally the Turtle team. I'm part of the Nature Preservation Board of Highland Beach. Moved here 2 years ago because of the really, really special nature here. My concern about the park is really Yamato Rock. You mentioned it is a very, very specific ecosystem. It's a habitat. It has a lot of endangered species. You know more than me. I'm not a biologist. You have to do your research and speak to experts. A lot of them are actually in this room. They would love to reach out to you about our nature concerns. We also really are shocked that you're building a parking lot in wetlands. This is a dune, and you're building even more parking lots where we already have over 1,000 parking spots less than a few hundred feet away, or a few hundred meters, sorry. So that's a 3-4 minute walk. We have over 1,000 parking spots in the Spanish River Park. I know this is a Boca Raton City Park, and you say you don't care, you're Palm Beach County, but you have to consider that you're building a parking lot on a dune near, it was mentioned, the water, the inlet, the water and the, what is it called? The water in the back of the, what is it called? Sorry, I just have a blackout. The intercoastal, yeah, help, thank you. So it's the intercoastal, it's the sea, it's the beach, it's the dunes. I mean, we are from a nature perspective shocked, and we would love you to rethink the parking. If this park has to be built, please consider the parking and how you build into a dune. Thank you.
So to that.
So to that comment, I will say or add, if I may, that's precisely the reason why, or one of the reasons why we're here today. What we presented to you is we're trying to go from a park that is approved, right? It has 43 conditions of approval that is very intense. We want to tone it down, and we want to tone it down with you all. We want to find that place where we can address to the best of our abilities what your concerns are. And we're not leaving this meeting and not showing again to this community. Our hope today is precisely to get that input and translate that into something, as Eric stated, that we can present to you even before we make it back to the town. Take into account, for example, reducing the parking.
Then I'm using the 10 seconds I had left. Then consider the park without parking. There is plenty of parking nearby.
Is Mr. DeFalco? All right. Oh. And next is Jacqueline DeHart.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline. I am a resident of Highland Beach, so I wanted to come out and voice my opinion. So, building a public park with beach access on an Indian burial ground would be culturally insensitive and disrespectful, disregarding the historical significance of the site, causing distress to the community. Additionally, it goes against ethical considerations of preserving sacred spaces and respecting the wishes of the affected residents. This project is unrelated to providing public access to the beach, as there are ample public access points well within the vicinity, whether or not they are owned by you or Boca Raton. This seems to be an opportunity for you to enhance your resume, and that is the worst form of grandstanding. If you genuinely cared about the wishes of your constituents in Highland Beach, this meeting wouldn't even be happening in the first place. As a Highland Beach resident, I am appalled that this conversation has been dragged out for so long. The ongoing projects in Palm Beach County face delays attributed to insufficient funding, yet the county continues to approve them. How about we utilize your time for projects that could generally benefit the residents of Palm Beach County? Because that would be much more impactful. If your vision is to ensure that decisions that you make today will have lasting value, this contradicts that vision. You have a chance to do the right thing and preserve the area for future generations. I urge you to listen to the residents of Highland Beach and the residents in this room. While our individual reasons may be different for opposing this park, they share the shared sentiment among us that is unanimous that we do not want this parking lot park. Thank you.
All right, the next card is Charlene Williams, and then after that is Dr. Kozbowski. Is Charlene, oh, okay.
I'm not going to speak in front of people. But I've lived here in Highland Beach. I'm a resident. Oh, it's got to go up because I'm tall. I've lived here since 97 with my mom and my dad. What am I doing wrong? Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. And I've seen the area change so much. I really don't want to see it change anymore. We have a chance here where we don't have to take, an area that's beautiful and just make it pave it and parking lot. I mean, and I've seen vagrants sitting on the benches there the other day, and I'm thinking, well, what's going on here? I'm not used to seeing that. And I can imagine that we'll have a parking lot and people drinking beer and taking it over to the beach and partying, leaving their cans and everything all over the place. Nobody wants that. And I've seen it. I've seen it in other places. It's not a pretty sight. And I really don't want it to happen in my home. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kozlowski, and then after that, it's going to be Roger Smith.
before you start my time, I just want to say my comments were made before I saw the cancellation of phase 2, but I believe that what I say really doesn't matter whether we have phase 1 and 2 or just phase 1. So please start. My name is Dr. Peter Kosofsky. I've been a resident in Highland Beach for about a decade. I wish to point out to the county that the proposed Milani Park is way out of proportion for our small town and is, in my medical opinion, unsafe for the public. For comparison, starting at the southern end of Delray, we have the Atlantic Dunes Park, which has 2 parking lots totaling 113 spaces. The beach has a dedicated lifeguard tower with 1 to 2 lifeguards. Delray has a population that is approximately 18 times that of Highland Beach. Now, just 3.8 miles south down A1A, we come across Spanish River Park in Boca Raton. It has 33 parking spaces on Spanish River Boulevard, and further down, a larger parking lot, which also houses several bathrooms and facilities for children and the disabled. The beach at Spanish River also has multiple lifeguard towers. Boca has approximately 25 times the population of Highland Beach. The 2-stage proposal for Milani Park has about the same number of parking spaces as the Atlantic Dunes Park, but has no lifeguards, no bathroom facilities, nor a traffic light to help people cross A1A as in Boca. Given the well-known coral reef in the proposed Milani Park, much of the beach is not safe or ecologically friendly to swim in. Highland Beach is a very small town without the resources of its adjacent cities that have 18 to 25 times Highland Beach's population. The vast majority of residents here do not want a public park, especially an unsafe public park, which would basically be adjacent to Boca's large Spanish River Park. Given the coral reef danger, the lack of lifeguards, lack of bathroom facilities, lack of a safe crossing through A1A, and the added traffic, most of our residents feel that this is a well-intentioned but misguided project. How many parks do you need in a 3-mile stretch of A1A? Do we really need a park every 1.3 miles? Do we need an extra park without lifeguards and proper facilities? I consider the present lifeguards. Okay, I consider the present proposal an unneedless danger to the public. Thank you.
Yes.
You want to do the needs assessment first?
Yes, it does go back to our county's comprehensive plan. I know we're here and okay. I know we're here in Highland Beach. We're serving countywide residents. If you look in North County, there were many properties acquired that are in close proximity. So the public beach accesses, I do hear your point. I hear your analysis. We have them up and down the coastline. Again, 14 county beach parks that are interspersed among municipal parks throughout our coastline, so that our entire county population, now over 1.5 million people, projected by the University of Florida to be near 2 million by 2045. That comprehensive plan is the guiding document that there's a recreation and open space element, guides how our county park system is planned for the whole county and developed. That's the answer to that question.
It's not safe.
As the planning goes, go ahead.
I would think what I hear you saying is the approved site plan with the town does include lifeguard service, does include a restroom, does include the things you're talking about. The 43 conditions of approval that the town has placed on the county include all those things. So I'm marking your comment down in favor of the approved current site plan with the town.
What? For God's sakes. Jeez. Yeah. Don't put words into my mouth. Just because you have a statutory requirement and I point out some of the flaws, especially with this particular site, you have no reason to say I vote for the original plan. I don't.
Doctor,
and don't put
you've
words
had
in
your-
my mouth.
You've had your
Well,
time to
don't
speak.
change my words.
All right. So let's go to the next person.
I'm a resident of Highland Beach as well. One of the things that I'm really questioning is why are we building a park here when only 3/4 of a mile away, you've got the Spanish River Park? And there are homeless people in that park. I walk it regularly. And I've seen several homeless people. We don't want homeless people in our neighborhood. Also, we don't want a parking lot because we're very close and that's a horrible sight to have. And one of the questions I want you to ask or answer, is why did you not include the Highland Beach residents in your initial planning? Are you going to answer that?
The reason we're here tonight is to be able to get your comments on the planning. The plans.
I'm
wait,
sorry.
No, let me finish, please. The plan that you saw that Eric presented showed what was originally approved by the town of Highland Beach with their conditions. And then the plan of what we'd like to propose that scales that project back because the commissioner and others have heard of the concerns. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to be able to get some of this information. The park is not being built tomorrow. It's to get this information because it has to go back to the town for any approvals.
No, you haven't answered my question because we did not get any say in this park being built in here. And I would like to know in the parking lot, which is very close to where we live, and it's going to impact the value of our property.
So if I may, at the beginning of the presentation, Eric shared that we were going to talk about where we are today and that we had brought together some phone boards that had information available. And I think the one thing that we did not cover in our presentation, and was intentional, was the history of this park, right? How we made it to where we are. And the reality is that there was an entire process that took place many, many years ago. And that's what you have summarized in those two boards to my right, your left, right? That recount not only the participation that took place back then, the legal challenges that this project faced, the resolution that was attained through those legal challenges, the approvals that were granted for a site plan that is already approved, it's in place.
That's my problem. You've approved it without the Highland Beach residents having say. You know, you're cramming this down our throats and saying this has already been approved and we can't do anything to stop it.
Let me take a step back because maybe I am not being effective in conveying the point that I'm trying to convey. So if I may, hopefully we will make it there. This went through an entire approval process that at the time took into account public participation of those that were involved, and that approval process went through the town. It's the regulations that apply, and my colleague to my right, Eric, is our expert in the regulatory process, right? That level of participation took place many years ago when the current site plan was approved. What we're doing today, and I will very respectfully disagree a little bit as to what our intent is here, but our intent is to say, we have a site plan that is approved. We feel, okay, that it should be less intense, okay? We would like to go back to the town through the same approval process that we already went through and has an approved site plan. We're coming in to you to say, we don't want to go to that level. We want to tone it down. We do want a park because there's a level of service through our comprehensive plan that needs to be delivered. And this property was acquired many years ago with the intent, with public funds, with a promise that it was going to be used for public park to meet that level of service. And although we do have an approved site plan, we believe that to be too intense. We would like to tone it down. So that's maybe a little bit of the difference I have with interpretation. But we are here precisely to provide the opportunity for.
Yeah, really. That's for sure.
Okay. In order to be able to hear everybody's comments, we need to be able to move on with these comments. So the next is Judy and Howie Aronson. And then after that is Martin Roth.
I live in Highland Beach and I have to tell you, I do walk around there almost every day. I know the beach very, very well. It's incredibly narrow and those rocks are quite dangerous. I've cut my feet a number of times, and to have a park there where people can get hurt. I'm a fairly good swimmer. I did try to snorkel there once. Very, very dangerous. So I think having a park there is not a great idea. In addition, where you're planning the parking lot, every time it rains, there is a beautiful little lake that forms with ducks and beautiful birds. What's going to happen to that wildlife that comes every time it rains? So obviously, I'm not in favor of the park. Okay, for those reasons, thank you.
Are you Mr. Roth?
I am.
Okay.
Hi.
Sure. As Isami said, if we're able to scale this project back, which is our desire, the wetland that exists is going to remain. We have an opportunity to expand that wetland, work around the parking, buffer it to create additional native habitat, and to accommodate that. If you're familiar with green spaces and the role they play in our critical infrastructure, they actually accept stormwater. There's a lot of development around that property, and we'd like to enhance it more if we're able to scale down the parking. And that's one of the goals and the reason we don't want to pave paradise. I understand your opinion. Thank you.
All right. So Mr. Roth can get his 3 minutes. If we can, 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Again, I appreciate everything the county is doing right now for the park. But when we passed my name is Marty Roth, by the way, and I've been a resident here for about 6 years. When we bought our property, it said the future home of Milani Park. And it seems like it's not a park, it's a parking lot. Okay. The beach was always public access at the beach, and it belongs to the county. That wasn't part of the purchase of Milani Park. So how are we putting a park in the Milani property as opposed to using that property as a parking lot so you can have access to the beach? It's really making it a public beach as opposed to making a Milani Park, which was what we had anticipated that area to be, which would be nice for the community as well as the residents of Highland Beach. It seems like all you're trying to do is get your ratios together so you can meet the requirements of the county to set a number of people to public beaches and using Milani Park as a parking lot to accomplish that.
Do you have some suggested park amenities that you'd like to see on the west side other than additional wetland and native vegetation? Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think good.
Well, are you going to yield your 2 minutes? Okay. Do you want to wait till your card is coming up? Okay.
Okay. But
okay. Well, we look forward to hearing from you. Did you have anything, sir, specifically? Okay. Thank you.
that's my point. It's not a park. It's a parking lot. And, you know, it seems to us that you're utilizing that property so that you can meet your obligations to make your beach ratios correct to the public.
Thank you.
All right. The next two speakers is going to be Christine Vegas And then Dr. Sugar.
I am Chris Villegas and I live up the road at the Clarendon, and I've been a resident here for 15 years. I respect the fact that in 1987, this property came over and that there were approvals and procedures that you went through. However, this is 2024. We have a new commission. We have a mayor and commissioners who are very concerned about the park. And I appreciate the fact that you've scaled it back with X's. I think that's very good. My concerns are environmental, the wetland area, and the parking. There's a concept that is a pop-up park, which is just you have some areas with gravel and people can come. And we have a burial ground here. And in my family, I happen to have American Indian, Sioux Indian in my family. And I think you ought to think about putting, if you have to do anything and the commission can't make any changes, then have a little area where you could walk there and respectfully look at the grounds without going into the area of the beach and create a different kind of a park. And a pop-up park, which I understand from Maggie, is something that has really increased in the United States in many different parks. And that's something to think about. And not having an impervious surface over there would certainly protect us from the flooding that we have on a regular basis. And whoever presented, I believe it was our strategic planner, presented the parking, the traffic situation. You have no clue what goes on here in the season.
Thank you for your suggestions. Dr. Sugar?
Yeah, my name is Martin Sugar. I'm a retired surgeon, and I'm also an active field associate at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. And just 2 points. The turtle people brought up the concept that this is an active area for turtle nesting. And anybody who's walked the beach knows that an active turtle nest is some 10 to 20 feet in diameter and must be left alone for weeks to months. All it would take is 2 to 3 turtles to come up on that beach and your beach is gone. It's no longer available to the public or should be available to the public. Or ordinarily, when they're fenced off, people are respectful and go around it. But if you're going to be filtering people through the parking lot into an active beach, that should be the rate limiting factor right there. They've closed down portions of national parks for much less, for insects, to Twitter fish, whatever. These are precious, leatherback and turtles that have this unique nesting place. The second thing is the American Museum, last week we closed 2 halls on North American Indians that have been present for more than 100 years. We are constantly repatriating artifacts and bones. The Tequesta Indians have been in this area or were in this area. They're now gone for about 1,500 years. That was an active burial ground. To put a boardwalk over a burial ground, I mean, how would you like that if that was your parents and they put a boardwalk over their resting place? So in summary, the ecologic, or rather the natural history concept with the turtles, compounded with the archaeological concept, should make this completely off limits. Thank you.
And Maggie, it's your turn.
Okay, guys, I'm Maggie Chapelier. I have been a resident of Highland Beach since 1986. First of all, I want to tell the commissioners, thank you very much for coming, and I want to work with you. Keep me in mind. I'm really open to helping you. First of all, hammocks is not a good comp, not at all. The size, everything to do with it, I don't agree with you on that. We need a design that is beautiful, useful space to educate people where they can gather, relax, enjoy the breeze, the environment, whether by bicycle or by walking there, strolling there. I don't believe in the parking lot. That is not a park, okay? We want to integrate the park into the existing neighborhood. A parking lot is not what the residents want. We want a place to gather, to meet, to meditate, to relax, to sit, like they do in all the pocket parks that are being proposed all over the United States. There is no parking in a traditional pocket park, or what they call in Boca a passive park. There's 5 of them in Boca now. They're leading the way. I envision a focal point right about here of some kind of a fountain with a sea turtle monument. And also, we're forgetting the Milani family. We're supposed to make a memorial for them. And I envision a place where people would come in and they can stroll around and they could bring their pets, or a bicyclist could park his bicycle here and cross over and look at the beach. That's what I envision. Also, passive parks in Boca are very successful. I met with someone the other day and people are loving them. The neighborhood people are loving them. Also, we want to create a useful space, not a parking lot. Okay. Okay. The residents are speaking to you tonight and they do not want an ugly parking lot. You don't need it. There is a parking a quarter mile or less than that away from this site. I can tell you that right now. John and I drove by Spanish River Park the other day and it was like half empty. They don't even want to park there. Also, we need to respect the residents' desires. And one last thing, just let me say one last thing. I've sent you guys a PowerPoint that you're going to love. I did so much research on pocket parks. I've tried to send it to you, Marsha. I'm going to send it to your assistant. A successful park begins with community support that will create stewardship within the community. A park is only as good as its long-term maintenance. If we are behind this thing
Ma'am,
and we don't have a
ma'am,
parking
Your
lot,
time
then the
has
people
expired.
will be happy with you.
And the next person is John Chapelier. And that was good to, and that makes up the time. That works. Okay, the next person is Amy Berman, and after that will be Steve Katsky.
Good evening. Thank you very much for our county folks coming to visit us tonight, and Commissioner Woodward in particular, thank you so much for coming to us. We really appreciate having the time to voice our opinion, and I think you already have heard the opinion of this group. But I will just add one other concern just to put a pin in it, and that's about security. I listened very intently to the plan, very intently to what you said. I've looked at the documents and I have yet to see anything that really addresses some of the basic security issues. You talked about the idea of low shrubs so that you could get a sight line. But the area with the dunes would be high up and not seeing the beach. No security. The area you talked about having brighter lighting to serve as a deterrent against people staying in the park after hours. But bright lighting doesn't work with migrating turtle populations. So I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's just not coming together as a plan. I will also say one more thing you've heard from us. I wonder how the Milani family would think about coming to the Milani parking lot. Thank you.
They addressed it in the original presentation. Steve is.
Not getting the expertise. Please.
How are you addressing the homeless? Hi. I'm going to address security first because that was brought up first, and then I'll get back to homeless. I did address it in our initial conversation. We do have park rangers that patrol all of our parks. They do walk the boardwalks and the pathways out to our beaches, although we want to support our dune vegetation. And so when I talked about line of sight, that's working with our local law enforcement partners that request that so that they can see our parking lots. And again, we do work with municipalities up and down our coastline. I will tell you that many of our parks as well, and your law enforcement here, I'm sure will tell you they know who's in your town at any given time. Many of them want to work with us to pop cameras in our parks, and we do allow for that so that they feel like there's an extra sense of security. But my staff, my park rangers, and my maintenance personnel will regularly and routinely patrol this park as they do all of my parks. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. There's too many people. No, it's not. It's not once a day, and they are on patrol until overnight, till midnight. They'll check on a park even when it's locked after night. I have a number of them in the Boca Raton area. We don't necessarily publish our set schedule because that's what criminals are looking for, right? And I will tell you that I know I can see you're not happy with my answer, but that is my answer: safety and security. I have a force of park rangers. Now back to homelessness. I did reference our ordinance. So again, city parks manage their parks differently than the county parks do. Are you talking about the city of Boca Raton parks? I don't frequent city of Boca Raton parks on the beach. I typically go to county parks. I can pass that on to the director of Boca Parks. I will. I'll pass it on to Greg. Yeah.
Steve, who's Steve? Steve Katsky. All right. Lynn Edelstein, and then after that is going to be Tom Lobau. Is Lynn here? She's coming, okay.
My name is Lynn Edelstein. I'm a resident of Highland Beach. Joni Mitchell, who just passed away, she wrote a song, Big Yellow Taxi. And one of the things in her song was they built on a nature site, which was as beautiful as paradise. This changed it to a man-made structure when it was made into a parking lot. I don't understand how this town, which is so beautiful, can take nature and cover it over with concrete. If we have to do a park, I agree with what all these people had said before, but a parking lot does not enhance the town or the people. Also, I'm on the practical side of everything. The cost, who's going to patrol? You're saying the Highland Beach Police? They're out there, they do their job, but they can't even control the speeders down A1A when you're trying to cross the street. So that's going to be another thing, and we don't have a big police force. I don't know what the number is. So who's going to be paying for more police? You're going to say rangers are going to come through? Are they coming through every day, all night, 24 hours a day? Or are they going to be maybe today at 10, maybe tomorrow at midnight? It is not going to be safe. The traffic, I agree with the person who was talking, said there wasn't bad traffic. In season, it's unbelievable. And when we're not in season, it's heavy. And you can't, if you're making a left turn on A1A, if you live on the west side, you can't get out. right turn. It took me one morning 10 minutes to get from Regency Highland to Spanish River. And that's before this has been built.
All right, ma'am, your time
Also-
is up.
I'm sorry?
Your time is up. Thank you.
Well, I think you should listen to what we're saying. This is a done deal.
And that's the reason we are here tonight, is to listen to what the residents are saying.
My name is Tom Loba. I live in Boca Highland, but in June of 1999, I moved to Ocean Ridge. I lived at 21 Luther Drive, and that was on Inlet Cay. My street dead ends at the park that you're referring to in Ocean Ridge. That park can't be compared to Milani Park. That park is huge, and it abuts up to the Boca Beach Hotel, or Boca Beach Club, or not club, but the public beach with bathrooms, etc. And there's nothing like that. There's no bathrooms at all in the whole vicinity over here by Milani Beach. In 2008, I moved to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I built an oceanfront villa. I lived in it for 14 years. I walked the beach. We had 14 miles of beach. Every place on the road where a person could stop and go surfing, they would park their car. They would take a surfboard, they would take their lunch, and they would take toilet paper. And it's not pleasant. And I was in Hawaii for a period of time. Every place where there was a place to park a car and go to the beach, where there were no bathrooms, people took toilet paper. So I don't know who's going to clean all that up. I don't think it belongs, a park like you're describing belongs over in Milani Park. It's way too small, and it's way too close to the Boca beaches. So thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Weinstein, and then Tom Cuzio is next.
Tracy Weinstein. I've lived in Boca Raton for over 27 years, Highland Beach for 4 years. I have witnessed when I walk on A1A, people on bikes or scooters parking in the canopies and then walking to the beach and then fishing illegally. They're I forget the illegal fish that you're not supposed to do, but they are fishing illegally. I think for every problem, there's a solution, and I agree we have to work together. What I'm suggesting is not putting a parking lot here, but having maybe Molly Trolley come up and down the street, dropping people off. Put another X over here on the east side of this A1A, put another X, make it 3 X's. And over here, you make a walking, like the Waxahachie. Have you ever seen Waxahachie Nature Park? So what we would do, because we have the wetlands and we have the land, you create a Waxahachie area right here with no parking. The Molly Trolley can take people up and down A1A from Spanish River Park and maybe to Highland Beach Library. So you have no parking. You have a nice nature trail around here with canopy trees. You have your wildlife that's being preserved. You're not impacting on the sea turtles. You're not impacting on nature and on the coral reefs. So it's a win-win situation. Let's build a future together that we can all be proud of.
Thank you. And after Tom is going to be Diana Matthewman.
Hi, just a couple of quick questions to start this. How many of you actually live in either Boca Highlands or Highland Beach that are on the project team? I'd love to know how many on the project team that live here. Nope. How many? Nobody lives here. Okay. Just wanted to know that. I'm Tom Cuzio, and I'm the president of the Homeowners Association here at Grand Cay in Boca Highlands. And we are literally adjacent. The homes there are adjacent to your proposed parking lot. And don't ever call it a park. It's a parking lot with a tiny little place across the street. We actually took drones over there to find out how much beach access and how big the beach would be when you were first considering this. You got a plan that's 55 years old. and you're trying to run it down people's throats now. I don't understand it. Last but not least, there was a woman who just came up here and said something about the safety of moving across A1A. If you have 40 cars in there, let's just assume there's 2 to 3 people per car. You're talking about adding another 120. 100 yards up the road, we already have a blinking pedestrian crossing that is totally disregarded by most of the drivers. They slam on brakes when they're going across that thing. And it's so accident prone, it's incredible. Now, I don't know how you're going to throw more cars, more people in there, and then end up feeling comfortable that it's safe. So needless to say, myself, the constituents of our community are not in favor of this project.
Is Diana Matthewman here? I'll put her card at the back if she comes back in. And I think Fred DeFalco. Okay, that one's called a couple of times. Ken Schreiberg. Jack Halpern. Oh, are you Ken? Are you Ken? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. Also, my name's Ken Schreiberg. I've been a resident for 25 years. And I did as much research as I could about the history and primarily the history of the requirements. Also, I volunteer on one of the boards, and I do so because I'm hoping for good change moving forward. And that's what I volunteer for. I understand that the project, the purchase was for a park, but didn't specifically notate that a parking area was required. So I think if you could work with us, that they, as the consensus was, is to remove the parking area. And also, my concern was safety. And I know that this area right here is predominantly a downhill. And that's where people go the fastest. And I know that because the Highland Beach Police, thankfully, always park right down here at the bottom of that hill area. They know that that's where people are going to go the fastest. And, you know, yeah, we have crossing lights now with nice cross paths, but I'm wondering also if the traffic studies were done with the how many seconds, or maybe I think it's a minute or so, that those lights cross, you know, the crossing lights stay on. So that's going to also impact the traffic besides people trying to get in and out. So that would be my concerns. And I think a logical solution would be to remove the parking area and make the whole thing a park, as what I understand the contract was for the sale. Thank you.
Thank you for your suggestions. You can pass it to the next person now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. I will do my best to keep it short. I have four things to bring up, two of which I'm going to bring up have not been discussed tonight. The first thing I'd like to point out, and I'll give this to your project manager right in front of me, is within 1,500 feet are 13 condominium towers. As he's looking at that, he will see the air photo of Milani area with the 13 condominiums. He will also see the air photo of the park of Gulfstream, which I added also, another one of their parks, and I also added Hamilton,
When you look at the three, and I passed around a couple of photos through here, you can see there is no comparison between the three parks. 13 towers, 1,407 apartments or residences, thousands of people within 1,500 feet of this park. It has no relationship. So yes, Commissioner Woodward, this is unique because of the population next to it. It is unique. Now let's talk about another uniqueness. Let's go to your milestone chart over here. And let's go to 2002 or 2000. A property survey revealed an 8 to 12 foot encroachment. What happened was there was a trading of the encroachment between the county and the condominiums so that they would have a non-exclusive permanent easement in exchange for the condominium granting the county a temporary construction easement and permanent drainage. I'm sorry if I'm losing you people, but here's the point. It's so the county would have a permanent drainage easement granting a positive outflow and parentheses needed for future park development and parentheses. There was a lawsuit later. This was submitted to the appeals court. There was a lawsuit by Mrs. Milani who didn't want this easement transmitted. Anyway, they put it in the court that they needed it for future park development. They had to have a positive outflow.
Sir.
What is a positive outflow?
Sir,
It is a gravity flow of water.
Sir.
Okay,
your
we
time
had to have
is
a
up.
gravity flow of water to go across. Those of us who've been involved 5 years ago
person to
with the
speak,
development,
Aileen,
ma'am, would you give me another minute to finish this? Thank you. 5 years ago, we had the $36 million bond issue in town. And at that time, they were also going to do a gravity flow pipeline. You cannot do a gravity flow pipeline from this project because the elevations are wrong. When it's high tide, the pipe goes in under the water. You can't put a pipeline of water into water. So you cannot get gravity flow. So the question that comes up is why are you proceeding when you cannot build a gravity flow pipeline? The last comment I want to make,
Excuse me,
Commissioner, I would appreciate if you stop threatening our people. Commissioner, I would appreciate would stop threatening our people by saying that if you don't get the park, if you don't allow us to build the park, you're going to give away the property and they're going to build workforce housing. That is a threat to our people, and I take a great umbrage on that. In addition, we've talked to you about selling the property at a larger money, and you're telling us it can't be done at a profit. We've asked you for information about that. You haven't provided the legal backup for it. Commissioner, we want you to be our representative, not for what you want, but for what we want.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this because it's been brought to my attention multiple times. I'll start with the original contract of sale, which was brought to me. I had attorneys look it over. It was made abundantly clear that this land was to be Milani Park, named after KMD Milani Park. That was the terms of the deal with the contract.
Parking lot is not far.
Go ahead.
Yes, it was meant to be KMD Milani Park. The only way that we get out of this contract is if it's deemed that we do not need a county park, Palm Beach County wide, that we don't need any more parkland. And that's just not the case. In the contract, however, if it were deemed that we did not need a park in the county, we can use it for other county needs, whatever the needs are at the time. And when I had this discussion with the residents here, I referenced a survey that was just done countywide. We had almost 8,000 respondents. And the number one need listed countywide was affordable, attainable housing. This This bond was just passed for housing on the last ballot, $200 million bond. The appetite out there is for housing. The only way that I get to protect this land, to keep this, and what I would like to see is a beautiful nature park, however that comes to be, whether there's parking or not, that's to be determined. I don't know where this lands. What I want to do is preserve it as close to its natural state as it is. However, the appetite out there is for housing. And in order for me to let this land go, however that comes to be, we would have to answer to the public. And we would have to give them what is the most needed thing that's listed out there countywide. It's housing. I'm sorry, it's not luxury housing. I'm sorry, it's not anything else that you guys would like. I'm trying my best to work with what I have. And I'm asking to be partners with you and to find a way that this is palatable for Highland Beach. I'm not threatening you with housing. I'm threatened with housing. We are all threatened, not threatened. It's a desire. It's a need. It's a necessity. It comes from the business community. It comes from our chambers of commerce. It comes from Economic Development Board. It comes from our hotels. It comes from every sector of this community. We need housing for people who do jobs, teachers, nurses, firefighters. I'm not talking low income. I'm talking people who work. That's the appetite.
Let us remind you, we are the public as well.
Yes, you are. The plan is 9 years old. I'm sorry, 2009 is that plan. Yes.
We're trying to say you're here to listen.
I am.
Okay, if you're listening and you look at this room has never seen this many people. Never. And maybe they never.
This is
will
impressive.
again, but they're here for a reason. They're here, we are your constituents. We are telling you, we are explaining to you, parking lot makes no sense. We have security issues. We are a private resident. More importantly, we are extraordinary taxpayers for the Palm Beach County. It is a wealthy area. We pay high taxes. And for you to put these kind of threats on us, as you've explained, I understand your background, get it all, but please listen to this, okay? Listen. Parking lots make no sense. Want to have a park? We'll have a walking park. We'll figure out something that makes sense for the community in which it is located and for the needs of the county. It's clear that the ocean area is really just inappropriate for so many reasons to make it a beach. It just is. And for you to put a parking lot in to reach an inappropriate area also makes no sense. So all we're asking is to say, you want to have a park? We don't think it's appropriate, but if you must have a park, it should be a walking park, no cars. I heard about transport on that highway. I want you to know there have been fatalities. People have died in front of our complex, Boca Island. Every day when I go to the beach, I am threatened by being run over. I'm not joking. I take my life in my hand at the expense that I pay to where I live to almost get killed. I get fingers at me all the time, the bird. I get people screaming at us. All we're trying to do is cross the street. You're going to add 40 more people. And I heard you did 40 more cars. I heard you did a study about transport. What about all those cars that want to get into the parking lot that's going to fill that are not going to be able to get in because they're filled? They're going to line up. They're going to have to make U-turns. It is going to be a disaster. So just hear us. You want to park?
Thank you, sir, for your input. And as you can note, everyone here is taking notes. We are here to listen. The only reason I'm at this podium is because I was directly questioned, because I came here to sit to the side. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to go back to my board members and tell them I sat through this meeting and here's the input we got. How can we work with them? That's why we're here. And I appreciate you.
Board anytime. I'm quite articulate. I'm an attorney. I'll be glad to present all of them.
The last thing that I will say to all of you, and hopefully I don't have to address another direct question, but if I do, I will.
Thank you.
But what I'm going to say is I appreciate those who have stepped up here and given us solutions. That's all I've asked for, is to please come to me, give me solutions on what we can do. Because if we don't do what we can do, it will be taken out of my hands. And it's not a threat that I want to make. I want to do what you want. I need your solutions. That's why we're here.
I'm going to go through the last cards. If these individuals may have left already, but I'll give them one more chance. Mei Ling, has she left?
Can't hear you.
Mei Ling. Okay, Daniel Dropper.
Hello, and commissioners and staff, thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time and your willingness to have this sort of a community meeting. If you couldn't see, you can see this room is packed, standing room only. The overflow area is also packed, standing room only. And so as a full-time year-round resident of Highland Beach, and a member of the Boca Chamber and intimately involved in a lot of things around the community, I thank you for coming to listen to us. I ask that you hear us. Okay, the concerns about parking and traffic are real. The concerns about safety are real. The pocket park idea is very interesting and very useful. The ideas this gentleman just offered, and there was a young lady over here who's since left. They're very good. They can meet the conditions of having a park, and I think you ought all, and we'd all be well served if you can listen to them, take those ideas back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Roger Smith. Okay. Mickey Zitzman. Oh, yeah. Okay. Steve Katsky. Diane Matthewman. And Fred DeFalco. We just wanted to give them one last opportunity if they were here. That is all of the cards that we have for people who indicated that they wanted to speak. We did receive many other cards that have various comments on it. We are taking all of that information back. And that's my
So let me, if I may, maybe on a closing note, if the commissioner doesn't have anything else to add. I lead the department that takes care of this sign, right? And you have seen me writing constantly throughout the meeting because we're listening, okay? So we said at the beginning, my colleague said at the beginning, we're coming back, okay? But we needed your input. Give us now an opportunity to see what can be done under county town regulations, right? Because that's what governs. Let us take an opportunity of what we have heard today and see how we can translate that, right? And we heard some very clear comments. Let us use that information to see what options we can bring to the table. And I'm not going to say it's going to be a zero parking because at the end, it's a public park, right? But how can we incorporate the ideas you have provided and the ideas we might identify in the coming months to produce something that is more palatable to the community and meets the needs or where you're trying to get. So I'm going to go ahead and say, as we said at the beginning, we're coming back. Give us an opportunity to take this input, translate that into something that can serve us to continue the conversation. Because at the end, that was the goal. And that's why you have seen us taking notes and notes and notes so that we can go back then and start processing that information, translate that into something that can bring us back. Okay.